Once you turn 80, these 5 things happen, whether you like it or not. Signs of aging. If you're approaching 80 or already there, you've probably noticed that life doesn't just continue the same way it did in your 70s. There are 5 specific changes that happen to everyone at this age. And I mean everyone, whether they're prepared for them or not. These aren't medical conditions or problems to solve, but universal shifts that every person experiences once they cross this milestone. Some of these changes might worry you, others might surprise you. But the 5th one, it's actually the most liberating thing that can happen to a human being. And if you don't know what's coming, you might miss the incredible opportunities these changes bring. Welcome to Life Advice for Older People. I'm here to help you navigate this stage of life with wisdom, preparation, and confidence. Today, I'm going to share the 5 inevitable changes that happen at 80. Changes that no one talks about openly, but everyone experiences. These aren't scary medical issues or decline to fear. They're natural life transitions that, when understood properly, can actually improve your quality of life dramatically. In the next few minutes, you'll discover exactly what shifts in your energy and sleep patterns, how your social world naturally evolves, why your relationship with time completely transforms, what happens to your memory and thinking processes, and the most surprising change of all, one that might just be the best thing about turning 80. I want you to comment below and let me know, are you approaching 80 already there or watching this for someone you love? Your perspective helps our entire community learn together. Here's what most people don't realize. Understanding these changes ahead of time is like having a roadmap for the most potentially fulfilling decade of your life. That 5th change I mentioned, it's going to completely change how you think about aging. Let's dive in. 1. Physical energy and sleep patterns transform completely. The first thing that happens at 80 is your energy and sleep patterns undergo a fundamental shift that's unlike anything you've experienced before. This isn't about feeling tired. It's about your body operating on an entirely different rhythm. And most people fight against it, instead of learning to work with it. Here's what's actually happening. Your circadian rhythm, which has been your internal clock for decades, begins to shift earlier. Your body naturally wants to sleep around 8 or 9:00 p.m. and wake up around 5 or 6 a.m. Your energy peaks happen in the morning and early afternoon, with a significant dip around 2 p.m. that's much more pronounced than it was in your younger years. This isn't fatigue. It's your body's new optimal schedule. The sleep architecture changes too. You'll spend more time in lighter sleep stages and less in deep sleep, which means you might wake up more frequently during the night. But here's the key insight. This is normal and doesn't necessarily mean poor sleep quality if you adjust your expectations and habits accordingly. Let me tell you about Lucille, an 82-year-old retired teacher. For the first 2 years after turning 80, she was frustrated and worried because she couldn't stay up past 9:00 p.m. anymore and kept waking up at 5:30 a.m. She thought something was wrong with her. Her doctor explained this was completely normal, and instead of fighting it, she redesigned her entire day around her new natural rhythm. Now Lucille does her most important activities: reading, correspondence, light exercise in the morning when her energy is highest. She schedules social activities for early afternoon, takes a brief 20-minute rest around 2 p.m. without guilt, and has learned to embrace her early bedtime. The result? She feels more energetic and accomplished than she had in years. Here are 3 practical strategies to work with your new energy patterns. First, identify your personal energy peaks through a simple ONIAC tracking exercise. Note when you feel most alert and when you naturally feel tired. Second, restructure your daily priorities to match these peaks. Do your most demanding tasks when your energy is highest. Third, create a consistent sleep routine that honors your new natural bedtime, including dimming lights an hour before sleep and avoiding screens. The most important mindset shift is this: your body isn't broken or declining. It's operating more efficiently for this life stage. When you stop fighting your natural rhythms and start optimizing around them, you'll discover you actually have more productive, satisfying days than when you were trying to maintain your old schedule. Have you noticed your energy patterns changing as you've gotten older? share your experience in the comments. It helps everyone in our community understand they're not alone in this transition, but energy changes are just the beginning. The second thing that happens at 80 affects something even more fundamental. And it might surprise you how positive this change can actually be. 2. Your social circle naturally evolves in unexpected ways. The second inevitable change at 80 is how your social world transforms. And this isn't just about losing people, though that's part of it. It's about a complete evolution in how you connect with others and what those connections mean to you. At 80, you'll notice that some friendships naturally fade, while others become deeper and more meaningful than ever before. This happens for several reasons. Your priorities shift toward more authentic connections. You have less tolerance for superficial relationships, and you're drawn to people who share your current life stage rather than just your history. You might find yourself less interested in large social gatherings and more drawn to intimate conversations. The friend who you used to enjoy shopping with might not understand your new pace of life, while someone you barely knew before might become incredibly important because they truly get where you are now. This social evolution serves an important purpose. Your emotional energy becomes more precious, and your brain naturally guides you toward relationships that provide genuine support, understanding, and joy. It's not social isolation, it's social optimization. Consider the story of Eugene, who at 81 was initially distressed when his longtime poker group gradually dissolved. Some members had health issues, others moved to be closer to family, and the dynamics just weren't the same. Eugene felt like he was losing his social identity. But then something interesting happened. Eugene started volunteering at the local library's literacy program, where he met other volunteers in their 70s and 80s. These new friendships were built around shared purpose rather than shared history. Eugene discovered that conversations with these new friends were more meaningful, supportive, and energizing than many of his previous social interactions had been. Eugene also found that his relationship with his adult children deepened during this time. As he became more selective about his social energy, he invested more in the relationships that truly mattered, and his family noticed and responded positively. Here's how to navigate this social evolution successfully. First, give yourself permission to let some relationships naturally fade without guilt. Not every friendship needs to last forever, and that's healthy. Second, actively seek new connections with people who are in similar life stages or who share your current interests and values. Third, deepen the relationships that energize you by being more intentional about quality time and meaningful conversation. The fourth strategy is crucial. Don't try to maintain the same social pace you had in your 60s or 70s. Quality becomes much more important than quantity. A meaningful 2-hour conversation with one person can be more fulfilling than a whole day of superficial social activities. Most importantly, recognize that this social refinement isn't about becoming antisocial or giving up on new relationships. Many people at 80 report that their friendships become more honest, supportive, and emotionally satisfying than they've ever been. You're not losing your social world, you're upgrading it. What changes have you noticed in your friendships and social connections? Are there relationships that have become more important to you or new connections that have surprised you? Share your thoughts below. This social evolution connects directly to the third major change, which affects something even more fundamental: your entire relationship with time itself. 3. Your relationship with time and priorities undergoes a revolutionary shift. The third thing that happens at 80 is perhaps the most profound. Your relationship with time completely transforms, and with it, your entire priority system gets turned upside down in the best possible way. At 80, you experience what psychologists call time perspective shift. Days might feel shorter because you have less physical stamina, but paradoxically, you become much more selective about how you spend each moment. This isn't about running out of time. It's about finally understanding what time is actually for. You'll find yourself caring less about what others think and more about what brings you genuine satisfaction. Social expectations that once felt important, keeping up appearances, maintaining certain standards just for show, pleasing people who don't really matter to you, begin to feel completely irrelevant. This shift brings an incredible liberation. You start saying no to things that drain your energy, and yes to things that feed your soul, often for the first time in your adult life. The fear of missing out gets replaced by the joy of choosing consciously. Let me share the story of Ruby, who at 83 made a decision that shocked her entire family. Ruby had been an active member of her church for 40 years, serving on committees, organizing events, and maintaining social obligations that had become exhausting rather than fulfilling. She realized she was spending most of her limited energy on activities that felt more like duty than joy. So Ruby made a radical change. She stepped down from all her committee positions and instead started spending her Sunday mornings in her garden, which had always been her true passion, but something she'd never had enough time for. She began volunteering at the community garden one day a week, where she could share her knowledge with younger gardeners and work with her hands in the soil. Her family was initially concerned that she was giving up or becoming isolated. Instead, Ruby reported feeling more energized and purposeful than she had in years. She had stopped spending time on obligations and started investing it in what genuinely mattered to her. This time, perspective shift affects decision-making in powerful ways. At 80, you're more likely to make choices based on personal fulfillment rather than external expectations. You might take up a hobby you always wanted to try, end relationships that no longer serve you, or make living arrangements that prioritize your comfort over convention. The practical impact is significant. You become much better at identifying what's truly important versus what just seems urgent. You develop what researchers call crystallized wisdom, the ability to see through superficial concerns to what really matters in any situation. Here's how to embrace this time transformation positively. First, conduct a time audit of your typical week. Identify activities that energize you versus those that drain you and look for patterns. Second, practice saying no to requests that don't align with your genuine priorities and don't feel guilty about it. Third, invest more time in activities that bring you deep satisfaction, even if they're not productive in traditional terms. Fourth, use this new time perspective to have important conversations and experiences you've been postponing. At 80, you have both the wisdom to know what matters and the freedom to act on it. The most beautiful aspect of this change is that it often leads to a more authentic, fulfilling life than many people have ever experienced. When you stop living according to others' timelines and start honoring your own, everything becomes more intentional and meaningful. What activities or obligations have you let go of as you've gotten older? What new priorities have emerged that surprise you? Let us know in the comments. This transformation in priorities sets the stage for the fourth change, which affects your mind in ways that might surprise you. And it's not what most people expect about memory at 80. 4. Memory and mental processing undergo fascinating and adaptive changes. The fourth change that happens at 80 involves your memory and thinking processes, but it's not the simple decline that most people fear. Instead, your brain undergoes a sophisticated reorganization that trades certain abilities for others, and the trade-off might be better than you think. Yes, short-term memory becomes less reliable. You might walk into a room and forget why you came, or struggle to remember a name that was just mentioned. But here's what's fascinating. While your brain becomes less efficient in holding new information temporarily, it often becomes much better at accessing and connecting long-term memories in meaningful ways. At 80, many people report that memories from decades ago become incredibly vivid and detailed. More importantly, your brain gets better at seeing patterns and connections between experiences. This is why older adults often excel at wisdom-based decisions, even when their processing speed decreases. Your brain is essentially shifting from a high-speed information processor to a sophisticated pattern recognition and wisdom synthesis system. You trade rapid recall for deep insight, quick learning for profound understanding. The decision-making changes are particularly interesting. While you might take longer to process new information, you often make better decisions because you're drawing from a vast database of life experience and can quickly identify what's truly important versus what's just noise. Consider what happened to Carlton, now 84, a retired engineer. Carlton was initially frustrated when he realized he could no longer quickly memorize technical specifications the way he used to. But he discovered something remarkable. When his adult son consulted him about complex work problems, Carlton could almost instantly see solutions that eluded younger, technically sharper colleagues. Carlton's brain was no longer optimized for memorizing new data, but it had become incredibly sophisticated at recognizing patterns and connecting seemingly unrelated concepts. His decades of experience had created neural pathways that allowed for insights that pure processing speed couldn't match. Carlton learned to work with his new cognitive strengths. He started keeping a small notebook for important day-to-day information, freeing his mental energy for the deeper thinking he was now better at than ever. He joined a community advisory board where his pattern recognition abilities were invaluable for long-term planning decisions. Here are 4 strategies to optimize your cognitive abilities at 80. First, externalize routine information storage. Use calendars, lists, and notes for daily details so your mental energy can focus on more complex thinking. Second, engage in activities that draw on your pattern recognition strengths, strategy games, mentoring younger people, or complex problem solving that benefits from life experience. Third, maintain cognitive challenge through learning that builds on your existing knowledge base rather than trying to master completely unfamiliar skills. Fourth, recognize that your thinking style has changed, not deteriorated. You're now optimized for wisdom rather than speed. The most important mindset shift is understanding that cognitive aging isn't just about loss. Your 80-year-old brain is specialized differently than your 30-year-old brain. And in many ways, it's specialized better for the kinds of decisions and insights that matter most at this life stage. You might not remember where you put your reading glasses, but you can instantly recognize when someone is giving you bad advice. See through complicated social situations to what's really happening and make decisions that account for subtleties that would escape quicker but less experienced minds. How's your thinking or memory changed as you've gotten older? Have you noticed new strengths emerging even as other abilities have shifted? Share your experience in the comments. This cognitive evolution prepares you perfectly for the 5th and most surprising change, one that might just be the greatest gift of reaching 80. 5. You experience an unexpected and profound sense of freedom and authenticity. The 5th thing that happens at 80 is the most surprising and, for many people, the most wonderful. You experience a level of personal freedom and authenticity that you may never have felt before in your entire life. This isn't just about caring less what others think. It's about finally becoming who you truly are. At 80, many of the external pressures that shaped your earlier decisions simply disappear. You're no longer trying to build a career, impress colleagues, or meet societal expectations about success. Your children are grown. Your major life responsibilities are largely complete, and suddenly you have permission, perhaps for the first time, to live according to your own values and desires. This freedom manifests in remarkable ways. You might find yourself expressing opinions you've held privately for years, pursuing interests that others always thought were impractical, or making choices that prioritize your happiness over convention. The fear of judgment that once influenced so many decisions becomes almost irrelevant. What's particularly beautiful about this change is that it's not about becoming selfish or inconsiderate. Instead, it's about becoming genuinely yourself, which often makes you more interesting, more honest, and more valuable to the people around you. The paradox is striking. At the same time, your physical capabilities may be more limited. Your emotional and spiritual freedom expands dramatically. You can finally stop performing the role others expected you to play and start living as the person you actually are. Let me tell you about Constance, who at 82 made a decision that perfectly illustrates this transformation. Constance had spent her entire adult life as what everyone considered the proper minister's wife. Conservative in dress, careful in speech, always putting others' needs before her own. She had suppressed her love of art and creativity to fit the role everyone expected. At 82, Constance decided she was done with being proper. She started wearing colorful clothing that expressed her personality, took up painting with bold, abstract styles, and began speaking her mind in ways that surprised everyone who knew her. Rather than becoming difficult or unpleasant, Constance became more vibrant and engaging than she'd ever been. Her family was initially startled by the changes, but they quickly realized that this more authentic version of Constance was actually more fun to be around. Her grandchildren especially loved this grandmother, who painted wild pictures and told them exactly what she thought about everything. Constance had finally given herself permission to be herself. This authenticity brings unexpected benefits. Many people at 80 report that their relationships improve because they're finally being honest about who they are and what they want. They waste less energy on pretense and have more to invest in genuine connections. The freedom also extends to lifestyle choices. You might decide to live somewhere that makes you happy rather than somewhere that's sensible. You might pursue hobbies that bring you joy rather than ones that seem age-appropriate. You might organize your days around what energizes you rather than what's expected. This doesn't mean becoming reckless or inconsiderate. It means finally having the wisdom to distinguish between obligations that matter and those that don't, between others' opinions that deserve consideration and those that don't. Here's how to embrace this freedom consciously. First, identify areas where you've been living according to others' expectations rather than your own values. Second, give yourself explicit permission to make choices based on what brings you genuine satisfaction. Third, experiment with expressing your authentic opinions and interests. You might be surprised by how positively people respond. Fourth, use this freedom as an opportunity for growth and exploration. What have you always wanted to try but felt you couldn't or shouldn't? Now might be the perfect time. The most remarkable aspect of this change is that many people report feeling more like themselves at 80 than they ever have before. All the rules and expectations that once defined you become optional, and you get to choose which ones still serve you and which ones you're ready to release. Have you experienced this sense of increasing authenticity and freedom as you've gotten older? What aspects of yourself have you been able to express more fully? What expectations have you let go of? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else to embrace their own authenticity. This freedom and authenticity represent the culmination of all the other changes. The energy shifts that teach you to prioritize, the social evolution that focuses on meaningful connections, the new relationship with time that emphasizes what matters, and the cognitive changes that bring wisdom. Together, they create the possibility for this stage of life to be not just manageable, but truly fulfilling. Understanding these 5 changes transforms everything about how you approach turning 80. Instead of fearing this milestone, you can prepare for it as a time of profound personal evolution and unexpected opportunities. Your energy patterns teach you efficiency and intentionality. Your social evolution guides you toward more meaningful relationships. Your new relationship with time brings clarity about what truly matters. Your cognitive changes trade speed for wisdom and insight. And your growing authenticity allows you to finally become fully yourself. When you see these changes as natural adaptations rather than losses, you can work with them instead of fighting against them. The 80-year-old who embraces their new energy rhythms, cultivates deeper relationships, prioritizes consciously, values wisdom over speed, and lives authentically, often reports higher life satisfaction than they've experienced in decades. This isn't about accepting decline. It's about recognizing evolution. Your 80-year-old self isn't a diminished version of your younger self. It's a specialized version optimized for different but equally valuable capabilities and experiences. The greatest transformation comes from realizing that each of these changes properly understood and embraced contributes to a life that can be more intentional, authentic, and fulfilling than any decade that came before it. Which of these 5 changes surprised you the most? Or if you're already experiencing them, which one has been the most positive for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your experience helps our entire community understand what this life stage can really offer. If this video helps shift your perspective about turning 80, please share it with someone who might benefit from this insight. And don't forget to subscribe to Life Advice for Older People. We're building a community where every stage of life is valued and celebrated.